One of the most important aspects of securing Azure is to secure the virtual machines that are deployed over Azure. So today we'll be talking about some of the threats that are present due to poor configuration of Azure VMs and how to mitigate them. Hello, I'm Piyush Goyal from Detox Technologies, and today we'll be talking about how to securely deploy a virtual machine. Although deploying a VM in Azure is highly simple, yet deploying a secure VM is requires some of the considerations. So first, let's look at some of the threats that are persistent in Azure VMs. The first is loss of data due to hardware failures. There can be hardware failures in the Azure data center. Then there can be maintenance downtimes, which can be scheduled or unscheduled through the Microsoft. We can then have insecure VM configurations due to poor DevSecOps teams or some of other threats. And then we'll see how to secure and speedily access the VMs. So we look at hardened images, availability zones and sets, managed and unmanaged disks, SSDs, HDDs, VM extensions, and other configurations. To note that we'll be only talking about the security aspects while configuring the VM. We'll not be talking about other aspects since these are out of scope. So let's jump to the tutorial now. Here we have our dashboard and we have a free subscription to the Azure. Let's go to virtual machines and we'll add a virtual machine. Okay, so let's choose a resource group. Let's say docs test. We can also create a resource group. Choose the virtual machine. The virtual machine and resource group can also lie in different regions. While selecting East US regions, we get the availability options of availability zone and availability set. So what's the difference between the two? With availability set, our VM data is redundant in a different rack space, but in the same data center. So there's a copy of our VM, which is made by Microsoft in the same data center, but in a different rack. So the both of the racks will have a different power supply. With availability zones, our data will be kept in a different data center, but in the same availability zone. So the availability zone that is East US will have more than two or more than two availability zones or data centers, and we can have our data put in a different data center. This ensures maintenance as well as hardware failures, which can happen in Microsoft. So when we select availability zone, we can have the option of setting our data in availability zone 1, 2, or 3. We do not exactly know the latitude and longitude or the exact positioning of these 1, 2, and 3. We just can be sure that our data is present in the second availability zone or in the second data center. Also, not every region has availability zones. Let's say South India. In South India, we do not have availability zone because there's only one data center of Microsoft in South India. So not all regions will be having availability zone option, but availability sets will be available everywhere. Let's choose this. Then we come to images. Not many people deploy the CIS hardened images. We can choose the CIS hardened images, which will automatically prevent us from most of the threats that an application faces. So we can select all the CIS hardened images from here. Since this is a demo and we cannot use the CIS hardened images in the free trial, I will not be using them, but surely anyone can use them by going to the marketplace or from here. We keep the username as Azure user, or we can change that. We cannot set usernames as admin, root, or there's a complete list of usernames which are default usernames that Microsoft restrains anyone from using. Next, we go to disks. And we have three options: standard HDD, standard SSD, and premium SSD. The difference between the three is the IOPS. Standard HDD has the lowest IOPS or lowest performance, and premium SSD has the highest performance. Also, SSD provides the disk caching capability. The disk caching increases the performance of VM to another level. We'll select the standard HDD for now. With advanced, we can use the managed disks or not. With managed disks, the data redundancy zones are limited, while unmanaged disks provide unlimited uh, or every type of redundant zones, the data redundant zones that we have. So while we are using availability zones, we cannot choose the unmanaged disks. If we had not been using the availability zones, we could have used the unmanaged disk. With managed disks, the Microsoft ensures 99.99% availability of our data. Networking is we can select the load balancing. This is a security consideration. Not much to do in management since we have the default configuration. With just that, we can enable the backup. While enabling the backup, we can ensure that the data is not lost even if our virtual machine or anyone tampers with the virtual machine. So we'll keep it at off for now. In the advanced section, we can install the extensions. So there are several of the Microsoft as well as third-party extensions like we have anti-malware extension. I'm not sure why I'm not getting it here. So there's an anti-malware extension provided by Microsoft. We have Symantec. We have other Sentinel, Rapid7. So these are all of the extensions which are provided by Microsoft. There will be an added cost of extensions depending upon the third party. The anti-malware extension is provided with the standard tier of Azure Security Center as well. Proximity placement group is for the performance. It's not in the security domain. Let's jump from tags and we can review and create our virtual machine. While reviewing and creating the virtual machine, we'll get a template for automation. This is the ARM template, and we can use it to automate the next VMs that we are about to deploy. This is in JSON format, and we can change the values to deploy all of these settings to the new VMs that we are about to place in our Azure securities, in our Azure deployments. One point to note is that availability zones and availability sets are only available when we are deploying a VM. After the VM has been deployed, there's no way to put these availability zones and availability sets in a VM. We cannot associate them after we have created the VM. So these were all of the security configurations that I was talking about. And after the validation has been passed, we can create and we can download the private key and create resource. So this was enough for today, I think, and we'll take up the other security measures that are necessary for securing an organization in Azure. Stay tuned. Thank you.